Welcome to What's Up Wichita with host Mayor Brandon Whipple. Today we're joined by Wayne Bell, District Director for the Wichita office of the U.S. Small Business Administration. If you have a question for the mayor, email them to social@wichita.gov and we will answer them on next month's show.
Welcome back to What's Up Wichita. This week we are talking with Mr. Wayne Bell of the Small Business Administration, who is going to come and chat with us about the latest opportunities for small businesses now that we have a new stimulus package coming down from Washington. Mr. Bell, welcome back.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Of course. We're glad you're here. We know that there has been some legislation passed in D.C., and it can affect our small business community here in a positive way so long as folks know what the opportunities are. So we're glad you take your time and help us get the word out.
Absolutely. So as of December 27th, 2020, the Economic Aid Act was passed was passed into law by our legislatures, and as recent as January 11th, the Paycheck Protection Program basically rolled out again. And the first few days of the rollout of the PPP program was really intended to do a better job of getting capital out to affected, underserved communities. Women-owned small business, minority-owned businesses, and so the portal for lenders to submit the loans into was only opened up for mission-focused lenders. Our nonprofit lenders, CDFIs, community development financial institutions, again, just those mission-focused lenders that had clients that were typically from underserved communities. And so that occurred for the first few dates. And
well, and just on that note,
Yep.
Some of the feedback I get quite a bit from small businesses in our community and even larger ones is how important that paycheck protection was to keeping people afloat during this time. But also some of the, I think, criticism that we saw from the program nationally for folks who looked at it was a disparity between, I guess, businesses that had really good relationships with their bankers, businesses who had access to, I guess, higher priced counsel. And this is an attempt to somewhat remedy that, it sounds like.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. Business owners, even nonprofit organizations that didn't have an existing banking relationship were really in a position where they were at a huge disadvantage because in the PPP program initially, and I'm thinking back into 2020, the first rollout, there wasn't a credit requirement. There was basically the basic demographic information, who the principal owners are, percentage of ownership, I believe over 20% or higher, the legal structure for the entity, but there wasn't that requirement that would typically go with your a loan, all of the credit check and the history and that sort of thing. So it really, if you think about it, it really leveraged the relationships that would have been existing. And so those small businesses and often small businesses from underserved communities may not have those banking relationships in place. And so certainly nationally, what the agency heard and what they have now attempted to remedy is to try to do a better job of getting this capital out to those impacted businesses from underserved communities. So the first few days, again, of this particular rollout was made available to mission-focused lenders. After then, I believe, January 15th, PPP opened for even smaller lenders, so the next level of banks, credit unions, that sort of thing, the next level of commercial lenders that had assets below at $1 billion and lower. So still smaller community banks, that sort of thing. And then by January 19th, it opened to the broader lending community. And so now where we are today, all lenders and all eligible nonprofits, small businesses, and some new entities have been made eligible, in this second round now of PPP.
Excellent, excellent.
Yep.
What else do we need to know about this? And my job, I think, is get this information out there, make sure that our small business community and really our local business leadership as a whole understands the ins and outs, understands the opportunities. So what else should we know?
All right. So just for everybody's information, the Paycheck Protection Program, those initial rules pretty much stayed the same. So if you've never received a PPP loan, basically you could obtain, and the spirit of this whole program was to help small employers, small organizations to keep their people employed. Mm-hmm. It was very successful. Nationally, I mean, the numbers were really pretty high. Nationally, gosh, we were at over 5,000 loans made nationally. I'm sorry, 5 million loans.
5 million loans.
Over
okay.
5 million loans by over 5,000 lenders and approximately $525 billion. It really was the equivalent of about 30 years of normal SBA lending. It was just unheard of. And what we're seeing already in the activities since January the 11th, in Kansas alone, over 9,000 firms have been able to obtain PPP lending. So it's working. What I would encourage every eligible entity to do, every eligible nonprofit, small business, they need to be speaking with their lenders right now. Mm-hmm. And if they don't have a relationship with a bank, we've got a tool on our website at sba.gov, a tool called Lender Match, where basically you would submit basic information about your business, and you'll be matched with lenders in the area who can help. So
that's a big deal.
Yeah. Big deal, no doubt about it. So any firm or any entity eligible that did not receive the first round of PPP, they can apply for a Paycheck Protection Loan. Basically, it's going to cover payroll expenses over a period that can go anywhere from 8 to 24 weeks out. The loan is based on your average monthly payroll multiplied by 2.5. And now for restaurants, and this is with our second draw, PPP, for restaurants and any accommodation or food service related entity, the calculation is 3.5, their average monthly payroll, intended to give that community being hit
very hard.
Very hard, intended to give that community a bit more cash, needed cash, to help. So,
because they've been hit not only with folks not going out because of health concerns, but also of regulation.
Absolutely.
So that's really
great. And so also the eligible expenses that have been expanded now with this. There are a few. First, I'll tell you about the newly eligible entities: housing cooperatives, destination marketing organizations, 501c6 organizations. These are all now eligible for PPP funding, where they were not eligible before. And those entities that remain eligible are going to be all of your business entities, partnerships, LLCs, sole proprietorships, 501c3 nonprofits, and 501c19 veteran organizations and tribal businesses. Also, faith-based institutions are also eligible. So those entities that were eligible in the last round all remain eligible, and now we've got some new types of entities that are eligible as well.
Excellent.
Yeah, and so there's also something called, by the way, with that first draw, for those borrowers that did obtain a PPP loan the first time out, if they were in a scenario where maybe they didn't utilize the full amount, they can go back and work with the lender to submit a request, for the additional amount under the first loan. So they could submit an application for a loan increase. And there are certainly some situations where we're learning that many business owners, they tried to do the right thing by not taking all of the funds that they were eligible for, thinking about the broader impact to those other businesses that could have obtained funds. And so as a result of COVID and everything, they're still hurting. So they're eligible to go back to get the full amount of the first loan. And then if they can demonstrate that their sales, their total revenues have been impacted by at least 25% year over year, 2019 compared to 2020. They can also get what's called a second draw. And that comes with a whole second, and that's up to $2 million, and that comes with a second period, covered period. So
that's so important because to put this into context, I think that there were discussions that we would see the coronavirus somewhat lessen during the summer. Like I remember that policymakers were saying that as well, where we might see a bump in the fall, but in the summer we'll probably get somewhat back to normal. So you're saying that there were businesses who thought, hey, I just need to get through these next few months and I don't want to take more than what I need. But because of this virus being as unpredictable as it was, if they were stretched longer or thinner with their resources, now they can go back in and amend, I guess, their application.
Absolutely. Okay. You think about it, business owners were impacted, as we discussed, by regulations. So they had to, all of a sudden, they had to put up barriers in some areas to keep their customers safe. They had to buy PPE for their employees, their teams. And so now these expenses are a part of the new round of PPP where they're eligible expenses.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. In addition to mortgage, interest, rents, and again, other expenses, benefits covered, benefit cost for the employees, that sort of thing. So some supplier cost. So there's a nice, just more flexibility that's been extended in terms of those other expenses. And so with PPP, 60% of the loan is intended for payroll costs, and the other 40% is intended for these other eligible expenses.
So as someone who, you're a professional in the business, not just the business community, but actually the community that helps businesses grow. When your expertise, I guess, and your experience looking at this whole situation, do you think that, what are some of the big challenges that businesses have been seeing, and does this second round and some of that flexibility, does that actually address a lot of those challenges, in your opinion?
In my opinion, so the second round will help, no doubt. But when you think about businesses moving forward, there are ongoing challenges. Many businesses have had to completely change the way they operate. Restaurants that may have at one time, maybe their percentage of sales would have been maybe 30% takeout. Now it's changed where that's 70% of what they do. And so with that, they certainly have to, you've got to buy vehicles, you've got to do some other things that allow you to support that. And moving forward, I believe this is certainly going to help businesses get through a rough patch. But I think for some time, businesses are going to continue to need help because it has significantly and probably far beyond anything any of us could have imagined, it's really affected the way we all operate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And it's one of those things we have these policy circles, we have these discussions about. We're not going to, I think, all delete Zoom, once everyone gets access to a vaccine, right? Like our world is probably going to be different just because now it's going to be more acceptable to work from home. As you said, some businesses have adjusted. So let's say takeout or this other platform that they've invested in, they're not going to shut that down. It's more likely that's now a permanent part of their business.
Absolutely. I think about our team within the SBA, and right now we're probably 80-90% working virtually, working from home. I could see that continuing maybe at a significant percentage. Maybe half of our staff in the future will be in the office and half, and maybe we'll rotate. I mean, I could see this being something that changes the way we operate permanently. And likewise, I think across industries, we'll see that play out.
There's a lot of opportunity in it too, I think.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the pushback I think I hear from folks is about how, change is bad. And the reality is, I think that when we face it head on, we look for those opportunities, such as educational opportunities. Now that online education is more of a accepted thing in our public schools, will we have options for kids to take certain classes online who might have to work more? Is there a blended model that we can go towards? It seems like, in talking with you, it sounds like a lot of businesses have made that pivot and adjustment, and it's part of your mission to help them through that, but also other aspects of our community making those changes. It's going to be interesting once we get this completely under control, what that new environment looks like.
Absolutely. Our resource partners, such as the Kansas Small Business Development Center, SCORE, we have a Veterans Resource Center that's in St. Louis that supports us here in Kansas. No doubt about it. They're offering webinars and workshops around a lot of these subjects, e-commerce and really helping businesses to be able to navigate really this new environment. Things, and those business owners that are able to recognize opportunities, this is really, we could look at it as, you look at a glass that's half full, and we could look at it as, it's almost empty, or it's, wow, there's a lot of opportunity, opportunity to fill it up.
Well, and I'll tell you, as a policymaker, I have to have my, look forward on this, on what could be coming down our way, I guess, as far as opportunities. And when we think about infrastructure, we have to be thinking about high-speed internet, right? We have to be thinking about what is our role to ensure that if more folks are working from home, and then they can have that video conference delivered to them. I think I was on a Zoom call, or during the afternoon. It got a little fuzzy, and it was an educational bit that I was watching, and the person stopped and said, "Oh, that's because the West Coast is getting online now," and actually made it wider, that when it comes to this new economy, this new world that we're entering into that's going to be more digital, we have to look at our infrastructure, our internet grid, and how we can, at the policy level, work with the private sector as well to help increase that, to help out the folks you help out, and make sure that we're taking advantage of all those opportunities.
Absolutely. I think broadband access, and you think about it even in educational, with our children, we're on I appreciate the opportunity to be on your small business task force, and I'm also on, there's a community task force, COVID task force that I'm a part of. And so we hear Dr. Alicia Thompson talking all the time, and one of the biggest challenges that they have is making sure that families have, the broadband that's needed for the students to stay current and, to stay engaged in the curriculums, that sort of thing. That's going to be an ongoing challenge for us when you think about rural communities, urban communities. I could see that with all of the things that are happening today. And we know that we're going to move back to a point where we are able to, be even more face-to-face and engaged. I still think this environment where we're working remotely in this virtual, engagement, I think that's going to be a big percentage, a lot higher percentage than it ever had been before, before COVID. And so I think,
and it's becoming more acceptable too. And I'll tell you,
absolutely.
As a dad, and this, just on a personal note, as a dad, I do my live Facebook updates every week. I do also more formal meetings, and if I'm working from home, I'll have a 3-year-old crawl up on my lap, and it's just, I've learned that, okay, you want to come see my friends, wave, and he waves, and as long as he can do that, then he moves along, right? But seeing other people and their kids and do the same thing is just, I think, although we're further apart because we're not in the same room, there's also something almost humanizing to see, okay, I don't feel bad anymore that my child does this because other folks do, and then you get to see the people that you work with in a slightly different light.
Yeah, I totally agree. We're not able to do the personal, the in-person, which is such a big deal, the handshaking and hugging and everything like that. But In some ways, we're better connected. In some ways, we're more accessible. Everyone is more accessible. We can all, if schedules, and oftentimes schedules permit, maybe a 30-minute call or what have you. And so it's neat to see how widespread and how acceptable it's become for us to jump on and do a face-to-face Zoom meeting,
right,
as opposed to just a phone call. So there are some things I think that are going to continue. I totally agree. It has changed how formal we operate in some cases, which is a good thing. These conversations are more comfortable. Presentations, presenters, the audience. You see people really being a bit more relaxed, but then certainly engaged and focused around whatever it is we're working on. So I think the other thing too, and I can tell you this firsthand, this environment has caused us all. We have to trust that the team members and individuals that we're dealing with and that we're relying on are still doing the work and the jobs that we need them to do, even in a virtual environment. And so I think that's a big deal. And so when I think about small businesses, they're innovative and creative. They're going to continue to find ways to add value around whatever it is we're doing. And that's the genius of small businesses, the creativity and the concepts that come up, and by the time you look at something that's new, you say, wow, why did I think of this?
Right.
And so we have some of the most dynamic and creative small businesses in our area. I think about a group that we deal with all the time, Adam and Jesse Hartke.
Oh yeah.
No doubt
Made
about
national
it.
news, like passing national level legislation over in Congress.
Absolutely.
Folks right here in Wichita.
Right here in Wichita.
Yeah, and that's one of the many reasons why I love this city. And most folks know I moved here when I turned 21. I thought I hit the lottery when I got here because of all the different opportunities that Wichita had that the small town I'm from in New Hampshire didn't have. And one of those, we almost, I think, take it for granted, is that entrepreneurial culture, right? That spirit that Wichita has, where we know of huge name brand startups that happen right here in Wichita that are international brands now, which means that culture of getting out there, taking a risk. If you fail at it, okay, well, fail fast and do it again, right? Like to be innovative, take risks, and try new things. And as you mentioned, we have the Harkeys who, and I forget the name of the bill, but it was a really good bill. It's one of the largest.
Shuttered Venue Operators Grant is the outcome. That's the grant, and I can't remember the exact bill. But it was saving our stages.
That's right. So, yes,
saving our stages, I believe, was the law or the bill. But ultimately, what was borne out was Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, which actually is very soon going to go live. And so our promoters, our events operators, our owners of entertainment venues, they're going to be able to obtain grant funding from the SBA as a direct result of this Economic Aid Act and as a direct result of some of the advocacy that Adam and Jesse Harkey did on this. So good work. Yeah.
Good. And right here in Wichita.
Right here in Wichita.
That work that they did wasn't just about them and their their business. Like that's going to help everyone who's in that industry, plus the other service industries that are part of, I guess, that experience. So
right.
Really big, great stuff coming up. And I know 2020 was a year that we all, I think, want to forget. And marching into 2021, I think that we see a light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to our numbers going down, vaccines being rolled out, and also the work you're doing to ensure that as businesses are looking towards the end of this and how to bounce back, they can reach out to someone in our community like yourself and make sure that they're getting the most out of their opportunities.
Yes.
So I think that's huge. We really appreciate everything that you and your staff are doing here in Wichita, and also, and you mentioned it, the other stuff you're doing, being a member of the advisory council that is making sure that on the policy side we're all working in sync to position Wichita and our small businesses and our families to be in the strongest position to rebuild once we're past this.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We have a great community. Just going back to the culture you were talking about, there's so many different examples. I mean, from large examples of Koch Industries and all that Charles Koch has accomplished and kind of passed on to that group. Then I think about the Carneys and all that Pizza Hut and Pizza Hut. What's so amazing to me, a lot of businesses still today, and I'm thinking of like Freddy's as an example. A lot of the leaders in that organization, either were groomed or came through that Pizza Hut, headquarters and the whole Pizza Hut team. It was just pretty interesting. We do have a great culture of entrepreneurs. We've got a great ecosystem. When I think about our chamber, Gary Plummer and his team, they do great work. They're always very helpful and willing to engage. And so often we collaborate around all kinds of initiatives. Just before COVID hit, we were struggling, our community was struggling with the impact of the 737 MAX being grounded.
Yep.
And so we had this task force that the chamber pulled together and Jeff Fleur and many others, but it was really a very engaged working group that was trying to find solutions to complex problems. How can we help this impacted community, the supply chain in our area? And I think that was a really good example. And then that was just before COVID.
Right.
And so it went right. So this COVID task force, that was kind of the core from the 737 MAX group, and Keith Loring with the Workforce Alliance. Just all of these voices were engaged, and everyone was really trying to find solutions. And so, from the SBA standpoint, and for me personally, when I can work with partners like that and make a difference in my own community, man, that's what it's all about, And so
it's huge.
Been great.
Yeah, and being mayor at that time when first week and then boom, you have the layoffs. I remember making calls and learning other people were making calls too for a collaborative response, and that was back when I thought that was going to be my biggest problem was the
737.
It was the MAX being grounded, but it turns out we had COVID, we had other things too.
Right.
But one of the things that's so great, and I think that you just articulated very well, is the all hands on deck approach. It's something that makes our community unique, I think, where, all right, what's our role in helping? Like, I don't want to step on your toes, so I'm thinking I can produce this to help with this situation, and you're producing that, okay, we're complementing each other, utilizing that collaborative effort, utilizing and leveraging, I think, our assets here in Wichita, whether it's human capital or the products and businesses and talent that we have to attack these crises head on. And I'll tell you, it's probably the cause, this collaborative approach, as to why we have fared better, even though it's been tough on Wichitans. But we fared better than some of our comparable cities that really, got comparable to us in most ways, but really got hit harder economically and also numbers-wise with COVID than we did. Not saying that we got a pass because it's sure been hard.
Right.
But I think that the evidence shows that having that communal approach, that community focus, really has benefited us and. As a community. And Again, we really appreciate the stuff that you got going on over at the SBA. You and your staff have been great, and also the extracurricular stuff. Being on meetings. This is the second time you've been on our show, and you're not getting paid for any of those. So appreciate your willingness to work with us.
Absolutely, really appreciate the opportunity to share information. This is helpful. We do have a lot of information to share, so I would recommend that anyone, any impacted small business, if you want to learn more about our COVID resources, just go to sba.gov. You can always contact our office at 316-269-6566. You can, again, find us on the website, sba.gov. And there's so many partners I'm thinking of. When we talk about collaboration, right at the top of the list, often for us, Wichita State and all that they're doing with the Innovation Campus, and that team over there just dynamic. And so we collaborate often. But at the end of the day, I think if you were to sum up, what is good about Wichita, I think at the heart of that it would be this community, this collaborative environment. You're just a phone call away from resources like the mayor and others who can help.
Definitely.
And so I really appreciate you, and looking forward to our continued work together.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you going above and beyond, and also the folks that we've already mentioned. Wichita, we're going to get through this. We're going to build back better. Looking forward to 2021, particularly once we get beyond COVID. But in the meantime, again, if you are a small business, reach out to Wayne Bell over at the SBA, and we'll make sure that you get taken care of.
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching this episode of What's Up Wichita. As always, you can reach out to me on my social media. I am always trying to interact with folks, or also feel free to send an email to bwhipple@wichita.gov. If you want to ask questions on next month's show, please email social@wichita.gov. You can even send us a video, maybe just a short clip of a video asking a question, and we will utilize that clip on air. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a good day.